Hollow Earth theory is fascinating. The idea that a vast underground cavern network, complete with ecosystems, and according to some, a flipped version of the cosmos, are said to exist at the center of the planet. We looked at this idea in the video Hollow Earth a few months back. So if the Earth is hollow, who or what could be living down there? Is it full of Nazis riding around on dinosaurs? Or is it home to little green men, dwarves, gnomes, or some other mystical creature? In an interesting article found on theblackvote.com, the ideas of what lives in the deepest recesses of our planet were laid out. The article begins by saying that MUFON's director of abduction research, John Carpenter, has found credible evidence from over 200 witnesses telling how they have been abducted by our old friends the Reptilians. These cold-blooded extraterrestrials have shown themselves to many, but one strange fact is that in most of these cases, the interactions are missing a rather important element for a close encounter with an alien: the spacecraft. This has led Carpenter and others to the conclusion that these reptoids, that most believe to be alien, are in fact, and may always have been, living here on our planet. There is the idea that these creatures evolved on this planet some 60 million years ago. Maybe they are the intelligent species that arose from the dinosaurs. This long history on the planet is reflected in many cultural beliefs, with cultures ranging from the Sumerians to the Greeks referring to serpent gods, or serpentine monsters in many of their myths and legends. Could the reptilians be the seed that these stories grew out of? The serpent figure is important, even in today's world, with it appearing on the symbol for medical care institutions. This spiral snake image has been found in petroglyphs and other illustrations dating back to ancient Egypt, but also found in places ranging from Britain to New Mexico. Some of the largest snake or serpent images being found amongst the Nazca lines, along with the other famous large pictures carved into the ground of the area. And we mustn't forget the Nagas of Hindu and Buddhist faiths, a creature we have mentioned a few times in previous videos. These snakes are also found in the histories of isolated cultures. The Australian Aboriginal peoples talk of the serpent being waging a war around the area of Ayers Rock, the gouges in the walls being evidence left from this conflict. If they had weapons technology capable of doing such damage at a time when humans were barely out of the Stone Age, they would certainly boast a level of technological sophistication we would envy today. One idea says that the reptiles did have space-going craft and left the planet at one point. This was until they ran into another extraterrestrial group and were driven back to the planet. On their return, finding that the other alien group had taken over. The Nordics, a group we discussed in the alien species video linked above. The reptilians were displeased about this takeover, especially after failing at their interstellar travel plans, and now losing what they considered their planet. War ensued, and this war is what is written about in the books of old, most notably the Mahabharata. Anyone with a passing interest in the idea of ancient aliens or ancient advanced civilizations knows the story of the flying Vimaras, the epic legends of great battles with tales of fantastical weapons and destruction on a massive scale. The flood myths that are also found in the majority of cultures around the planet also come from this time. Another reoccurring theme is that after the battle, the serpent gods always lose and are then banished to a subterranean world for the rest of time. Religions morph these figures over the centuries that followed, renaming them demons and such like. To quote the Bible, Revelations chapter 12, verse 7-9, "And there was war in heaven. Michael, his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast into earth, and his angels were cast out with him." This underground world is a common idea that is not bound by location or culture. Many legends, with many religious teachings, saying this banishment comes with the stipulation that if these beings wish to continue living on the planet, they must not interfere with the development of humanity. These stories of the war between these ancient species read like the pages of any good sci-fi epic. Humanity stuck between warring factions and groups worshipping both sides as deities. It is no wonder, as a species, why we are so aggressive, when it seems civilization itself was formed from the conflict of these beings. How could it not be? We were born into violence, and since that time religious differences have been a major cause for most of history's barbaric acts. Evidence of the worship and the forming of religions around these first inhabitants of the earth can be found in many places to this very day. Artifacts have been found and knowledge passed down from cultures in South America, India, and Egypt. The commonality of pyramid-type structures at all these ancient sites, the knowledge of the engineering required to construct such marvels given by the reptilians, the advanced technologies that we mentioned being used to cut and manipulate massive stones and to manipulate them in ways we struggle to understand today. Figurines of reptile-shaped idols can be found across cultures, all with almost identical stories attached. Another darker practice across these cultures is blood from human sacrifices carried out by the Aztecs and the Mayans to bloodletting and ceremonies in cultures across the globe. It would seem that these reptoids have a taste for the red stuff. The article goes on about the ancient practices of these cultures and speculates that these gods/reptilians were feeding on mankind, mentioning gods like the Aztec god of war, a half-human, half-snake-like being with huge fangs who would dine on the bodies of those slain in battle. This god is in the same form as the Nagas of Eastern religions. In another video, I reported how US troops based in Vietnam came across beings like this whilst on patrol in the jungles. Check this link out above, it's a very interesting sighting. The post then goes on to give a few witness reports on run-ins with these beings. They make for an interesting read. The last being an interview with one of these creatures. The god, demon, alien, or cryptid, whatever name you think is suited, talks about the ability they have to hide their appearance. This works like a mental projection, the image of a man or a woman being beamed into the minds of those that look upon them. These powers of mind control would seem to be very dangerous, but the creature goes on to say that they have been forbidden from doing harm to humans, but this was not always the case. This raises the question that maybe in the past, before the wars and when they were worshipped, was this from humanity's free will, or was it a case of mass mind control? The other gods/aliens freeing us from this enslavement when they banished this reptilian race to the underworld? What do you think? Is this all a bunch of tall tales, myths, and legend, where fantasy and reality entwine, or could there be some truth to it? The likes of David Icke would certainly say it's true, and that these creatures are evil and still seek to reclaim this planet as their own. This is an interesting read, and I recommend that you take a look at the blog. A link to the full article can be found in the description. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.